All right, are you looking for plants that are gonna look great without needing constant attention? Here are some of the easiest plants to keep alive. They're perfect for beginners, for people with busy schedules, or anyone who says, can't keep plants alive. Let's get into it. Ornamental grasses are an amazing addition to a landscape. They're so durable, they're rugged, and they just don't require a lot of fussing over. So it's one of those plants that I always like to incorporate into my landscaping. My favorite out of the bunch is the Karl Foerster feather reed grass. I love the upright structure. And something that's unique about grasses in a landscape, it's one of those plants, when you're thinking about design, it's a plant that adds movement to your landscape. So some people would say that it adds the element similar to what water can do, where you see it just blowing in the wind and adding to the beauty of a garden by adding some movement. So Karl Foerster being one of my favorites, it's more upright and structured. It's not as sharp as some of the others that we'll talk about, but it's a really nice look. Of course, there's Avalanche or Morning Light. These are going to be the ones that are variegated and just add a little bit more depth if you want something variegated. The Dwarf Hamlin Fountain Grass, these ones are going to have those puffy plumes. They'll all bloom normally middle of the summer through the end of the summer, giving you some really unique blooms and plumes in the landscape. But this is one that stays mostly compact, 2 to 3 foot tall and wide. It's going to be a little bit more rounded and mounded and a little less upright, but it works incredibly well. And it's a really nice, dense, thick grass. One of the larger categories of grasses that have been around for a long time are the maiden grasses. Now, these are the ones a lot of folks will use to hide utility boxes. They'll establish large clumps. Clumps can get a 4-foot diameter and they'll be about 4 foot tall. Yakajima is nice because it has that kind of smoky plume that you'll see all throughout late summer into the fall. The one thing I would caution you with some of the maiden grasses is when you go to cut them back, they are really sharp. And can kind of almost give you the little paper cuts if you're not careful when you're handling them or trimming them back. One tip on cutting grasses back in the fall is taking either a bungee cord or an extension cord or a rope and cinching it down around the grass and then making that cut and then cinching it down, and then you're already tied up and ready to go. So it makes it much easier to bundle it, and it keeps you out of getting cut up from the grass when you're working with it. So grasses, ornamental grasses, amazing for the heat, amazing for the sun, and add a whole lot of movement to our landscapes for easy maintenance. Every garden wants hydrangeas in it. You might want them, you've seen them all over town. They're amazing. Now there are some that are easy to care for, and we're gonna specifically talk about those varieties, but I did wanna highlight and show you that some of the main ones that people are looking for early on before we get to the paniculatas, which are the easy to care for ones, oftentimes people are looking for the big blooms, the mop head hydrangeas. Those are Hydrangea macrophylla, and they've got the big blooms, but they're not the easiest to care for. They're beautiful and they do work well in the right spot in a garden. They like morning sun, afternoon shade, and regular fertilizing, but it's not going to be a bulk plant that you're going to plant in every spot in your yard because you've got those hot sunny spots or those drier spots, and these need more moisture, they need more care. So there's your macrophylla. You also have Hydrangea arborescens. Now the arborescens, a lot of the older traditional types of hydrangeas, these have worked for a really long time as hedges, but again, they like morning sun and afternoon shade. You'll see them oftentimes complaining in the hot afternoon sun by wilting or drooping their blooms. There's a lot of improved varieties now that hold up stronger stems, but what I really want to focus on and help encourage you towards are the Hydrangea paniculatas. It is my favorite group of hydrangeas. They're going to be a little bit more conical shaped blooms, and most of them have bloom colors. They're going to be white to lime green, oftentimes fading to a pink or a ruby color in the fall. And the reason I like the paniculatas is because they're durable. They're so easy to care for. Once you get them established, they will reward you year after year after year with blooms and with durability. My favorite variety out of all of them is the little Hottie hydrangea. That's the one I've got here. It's all budded up and ready to go. And the little Hottie hydrangea is gonna bloom through the middle of the summer into the fall. It's gonna have some really nice fall color as the blooms start to fade into kind of a blush color into the fall. This is a plant that is super, super durable. So make sure when you're looking at hydrangeas, know that you've got options inside the category, and siting that plant is really important to get the right types of hydrangeas in the right spot in your garden. Paniculatas, they can kind of go everywhere. They can do morning sun, they can do afternoon sun, as long as you get them established in your landscape. The little Hottie is one of my favorites because it gets about 3 to 4 foot tall and wide, so it's always going to be a manageable height. And of course, you can control that by pruning it after it finishes blooming and making cutbacks early in the season to reduce the habit or the size of it in a landscape, even as a border. I really like using little Hottie specifically behind a row of boxwoods as kind of a second layer in my garden. So Little Hottie is one of so many. I'm gonna show you some other ones that I really like. There's some new ones out like pufferfish. It's gonna get 3 to 5 foot tall. Little Lime Punch though, at 3 to 5 foot tall. This one is really unique in that it's got kind of a lime green early start to its bloom with undertones of white, but the fall color on this hydrangea is stunning. As you can see, the color of pinks and reds and burgundies that all play into that, it just changes as the season progresses, which makes it super unique and unusual in the landscape. The new varieties that they're coming out with really stand out. And it makes it easier to really use hydrangeas because there's just so many ways you can use them now. 3 to 5 foot tall on that variety is going to be a size up from the Little Hottie. And as we moved into some of the other varieties, they get even larger, even up to 6 foot on some of these. There's the Limelight Prime, the Firelight getting 5 to 6 foot tall, gives you a huge body in the landscape. So if you need something to anchor a corner, really consider the Firelight. It's a great hydrangea. The Paniculata series, what we're talking about, they all work great because they can handle that full sun. Once established, they really don't need as much water as the Macrophyllus, although they will need water if you're in drought. They just stand out in the landscape. They're easy to care for, and they don't require some of the nutrition needs of some of the Macrophyllus. So consider the hydrangeas, Paniculata specifically, for anywhere in the garden that you want to add a pop of color. All right, you've got a full sun spot. You want to add something to your landscape that's going to look like a highlighter. Really consider this candy corn double play Spirea. The unusual thing about this plant is that it's got awesome new growth color contrast. So you've got this really unusual, kind of this burnt rusty orange red on top of this chartreuse lime green foliage. It stands out in landscape. And so if you got a hot sunny spot and you only need something to get 1 to 2 foot tall, it'll get about 3 foot wide. The candy corn's a really great option. These are some varieties that have been improved over the years. And this is just what you're seeing after or before it blooms. Once it blooms, you're gonna get a smattering of blooms across this that are pink. And so it really is a unique little landscape plant. And they're durable. This works anywhere. Once established, it's a really, don't even touch it, just let it be, and it will be super happy. If you ever get to the point where like, hey, I think it needs a little rejuvenation, you can give it a haircut, a light pruning after it finishes flowering, or you can even rejuvenate this by cutting it back even down to 8 inches from the ground, and it will regrow and look like a new little shrub if you do need to reset it. Maybe it's got outside of its bounds a little bit, but the double play candy corn Spirea is awesome. Now there's other varieties of Spirea that would take up some larger spaces in the garden. Things like the Renaissance Spirea. These are some older fashioned Spireas, 5 to 7 foot tall. So if you need a utilitarian shrub that's gonna create some massing or some privacy or along a back fence, Renaissance Spirea, it's a tried and true, it's an old standard, and this is a plant of durability that will last for decades in your landscape. So consider Spirea. Newer varieties might add a pop of color. These Renaissance Spireas are just gonna add durability and long-lasting life to your garden as a perimeter, as a border, as a backdrop. Check them out. If somebody asks my opinion, what's the most durable landscape plant, the easy care for landscape plant, it's the Viburnum. They're insane and they're amazing at how they can just live through anything. They work in full sun, they work in part sun, and I've even seen them perform well in shady areas. Now, they're gonna look different in all of those areas based on light levels. That will depend on how much foliage they can hold. More sun, it's gonna be a denser bush, and in less sun, you're gonna have a little bit more open center, and you're gonna see a little bit more of the branch structure, which I absolutely love on the Viburnum anyway. With these 3 Viburnums specifically I'm gonna be talking about today, there are some size differences. So one of my favorites, got it all over my yard, this is the Spice Baby Viburnum. Amazing fragrance, early spring bloomer with balls of just fragrant flowers. Besides that, the rest of the year, it looks like this. It's just a durable bodied landscape shrub that works anywhere. It can work in the full sun, half day sun, even working in shade. Now it does need some light to have some foliage on it, but it does work well in a landscape just about anywhere. A size up from there, go to the Brandywine Viburnum. This one's gonna get 5 to 6 foot tall. And the cool thing about all Viburnums is they are deer resistant, and I've got a lot of deer where I live. They are pollinator attractors, and the birds love them. This one specifically, Brandywine, is amazing. It does look different from the others in its form and its habit and its leaf structure. The cool thing is it has these lace cap blooms. After the lace cap blooms finish, when the pollination is happening, the birds and the bees are going on, backside of that's where the ovary is. That swells up to be a fruit. So all of these little lace caps, as they expire, will turn into clusters of fruit on top of the plant. The birds absolutely love the fruit. It's beautiful to look at. They'll be kind of a mottled color between pink, red, and even a little bit of like light purples and blues together. And so the fruit is absolutely stunning on it. And then to add just a little bit of icing on top of the cake, the fall color on Viburnum. The Brandywines are great. They turn into a burgundy color with pinks, even some oranges and some yellow undertones mixed into the foliage. And so it's a beautiful landscape plant for multiple seasons and attracting the birds, the bees, and then of course keeping the deer away. There are so many varieties to choose from with Viburnums. Another one I want to touch on is the summer Snowflake Viburnum. It's one of the big ones. It's going to get 6 to 8 foot tall. I mean, that's bigger than me. That's going to get gigantic and fill some serious space at the back of a yard, in a corner, or hiding utilities. This would work really well for that. In the fall, they're going to have purple and plum colored foliage. But the nice thing is this is a lace cap variety that's going to bloom intermittently throughout the summer. And so you get these scattered blooms all across the canopy. And it's just an easy plant to grow. So if you've not checked out Viburnum, there's a space in your yard for Viburnum. I know it, and I think you're gonna really fall in love with this category because of all the benefits. As you can see, they're amazing. All right, here we are. We're gonna have to bring it in low because these are the carpet roses, or we now call them drift roses. So down here are some of my favorite friends in the garden that just perform all summer long. They're roses. You're thinking, oh my gosh, roses. They got to be difficult because they've got such exquisite blooms. And I'll tell you, the drift roses just aren't that. They're just durable and they're landscape ready. So these are really getting popularized on large commercial projects because they're so durable. They're hardy for winter. They're also incredibly disease resistant, and they just add a ton of color. This coral drift is one of my favorites for color in the landscape. I'm actually going to be planting some in my yard this year. I love it. There's a lot of colors to choose from, but the main thing you need to know about roses, they need full sun. If they don't have 6 hours or more of full sun, they're not gonna bloom like they should. So always know that you need full sun spot for your drift roses or any roses, but these are improved varieties that can handle the heat, can handle the sun, and are incredibly durable for the landscape. These are easy to care for. If you've been scared of roses, don't be scared of these. They might prick you or poke you with a little bitty thorn, but the amount of blooms you get on these, unbelievable in the landscape. Should definitely be trying them out if you haven't already. I'll be joining the group this year and adding this coral drift to my landscape. Can't wait. Hey, if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. That will help push it out to others. And if you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you'll never miss an update. Thanks for spending time with us.